Hello and welcome to Valley Viewpoint. My guests today are going to be introducing us to a unique way of using horses. So Mary, Matthew, Amy, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So Mary, tell us about your interest in horses, because I know that you had a career as an accountant, but now you're doing horses full-time in a unique and special way. Tell us about it.
Yeah, while I was working full-time as an accountant, I have had a hobby of horseback riding. We own horses and love to ride them and share them with our friends and family. And we owned a property in Loudon, Washington, here outside of Walla. And a friend of my husband's knew that we had horses and property and suggested to him that we start a therapeutic riding center because Walla Valley needs one. There wasn't one here prior. And so he came home and told me about this idea, and I just kind of filed it away in the back of my mind. And then, time went on, and we were really trying to think of a way that we could use our property in addition to what we were already doing, which was boarding horses. And we decided to look into what it would take to start a therapeutic riding center to serve children and adults with disabilities and the horses. And so I discovered several things. One is insurance for this kind of organization is extremely expensive. There is a national or international organization called the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship that has been around for more than 50 years and has centers all over the United States and world. And they had a path, laid out for people who wanted to start a therapeutic riding center. And so we thought, well, let's see what happens. And so we just kind of, went step by step to see if this is something that we wanted to do. And during our training and certification process, we just fell in love with the idea of helping people with horses. And the further we got into it, the more we just decided and found out that this was something that we wanted to continue doing for as long as possible, and set it up so that even when we're gone, that this program will last.
So what exactly is a therapeutic center?
So what we do is we have gentle trained horses, and we recruit volunteers, and we have a certified instructor, and we teach riding lessons to children and adults with disabilities. And so we have spring, summer, and fall sessions. A rider will come, and the horses will be all groomed and ready to ride by our volunteers. The rider will come and put on their helmet and get on their horse and has a group riding lesson for 30 minutes once a week. And the benefits that we see from that are phenomenal. So.
Well, tell me a little bit more about the certification. You've mentioned this a couple of times. So apparently you can't just say, I'd like to do a therapeutic riding center and put up your billboard and you're it. There's a process that you go through in order to qualify.
You could do that, but probably the insurance would be too expensive. So with the certification, you can get cheaper insurance. So that's one of the good things. The other thing is that you learn a lot in the certification process that helps you provide these services safely, because depending on the disability, it could be that horseback riding is not safe for the particular person. And so during the certification, you learn a lot about different kinds of disabilities, and you learn about how to manage the volunteers. You learn about how to take really good care of your herd of horses that you have partnering with you. And the certification is it includes, first aid and CPR certification. It includes written tests and in-person teaching and riding tests. And to get through all of that, you become a certified therapeutic riding instructor, and then every year you have to do continuing education, attending conferences and webinars, and taking personal riding lessons, and keeping up your skills and learning new ones.
Now, you brought some friends with you, so why don't you introduce your friends to us?
Yeah, today I brought Matthew and his mom, Amy Vodder. And Matthew is one of our longtime riders. So,
Amy, how did you find out about the services that Mary is offering, and how did you get involved with it?
We were pretty new in town. We'd moved back to Walla, and Matthew was about 6 years old and had failed most traditional therapies. So he had failed speech therapy, failed occupational therapy, failed physical therapy. He just began to refuse to cooperate with any of the therapists, and it wasn't working, and we just kind of took a break and had given up.
Now, Matthew, your mother says that you were 6 years old when you moved back. How old are you now?
14.
Okay, so you've been back in the area for 8 years.
He was old at college band, market interested in college band solo.
Okay.
Yeah, he's talking about his brothers.
All right. Well, Amy, back to you. Tell us again about how you were getting involved with Mary's program here.
Yeah, we went to just a meeting of a local support group for families with disabilities, and there was a flyer for therapeutic horseback riding, and Matthew loved animals, and horses were his very favorite. And so I really was kind of, with our prior experiences with therapy, was skeptical about the therapeutic benefits, but was just hoping for something fun. Matthew would enjoy it. It'd be a good activity for him. So we decided to sign up and see how it goes. And here we are 8 years later, loving it and everything about it. Not only did Matthew love the horses and love being around them, it had so many benefits that we hadn't expected at all.
What did you notice?
So here's our little guy who could hardly talk. He's 6 years old, but the size of a 3-year-old because of his multiple health issues and heart issues. He could barely talk and wouldn't talk at speech therapy. But you got him to horse riding lessons, and he would talk nonstop about the horse and to his caregivers and to the volunteers, and then he would talk all the way there because he's so excited to go, and all the way home he was talking about his horse. And they also have the kids, if we know we're working on speech, Mary will make sure the kids have to give verbal commands to the horse, clear enough for the horse to hear it, before the horse will walk or stop. And so he's giving verbal commands to the horse. Physical therapy, he started out needing 3 volunteers to hold him on the horse. But as he rode, he got core strength, he got coordination, just build that confidence and strength. And pretty soon he's riding bareback and doing airplane arms or picking apples. So he's not even holding on, but riding bareback, sitting up straight and tall. It's physical therapy, it's speech therapy, and he had no idea. He just thought he's having a blast, riding horses and having fun.
So, Matthew, are horses actually your favorite animal?
God, horse, goats, cows.
Oh,
it goes
okay.
horses, then goats, then cows. Okay.
All right, well, very good. So, would you recommend this to somebody else?
Absolutely. I have and I do. I absolutely can't say enough good things about this program, what it's done for Matthew, what it's done for our family. And more than just speech and physical therapy, there's so many kind of emotional and social benefits as well.
Describe those.
The confidence that Matthew will have, he will be on that horse, and even though he's surrounded by volunteers and helpers, he's looking at me saying, "Mom, I did it myself, look at me, I'm doing this," and a sense for him of accomplishment and self-confidence. So just emotionally, and if Matthew was just having a tough day, frustrated with the limitations of his world or whatever it might be, go to riding lessons and it would fix it. And he just feels better. And the horses don't judge you. They always listen. You can tell them anything. So just emotionally and socially, it has really helped him. Being around, the other riders, the kids that are more like him than kids he sees every day, it's really good for him to see and be with people that are more like him or have different difficulties that he can acknowledge and say, oh, this person has trouble walking, so the horses are helping, or this person has trouble talking even more than I do, and that's all okay, and it's accepted. Everyone is accepted for exactly who they are, and they're met exactly where they are, and helped to become that best version of themselves that we're all striving to be.
Well, Mary,
Yes.
if being in your program means there's always someone to listen who doesn't judge me, tell me where to sign up. Now, tell me, is that a common experience? Is it similar to other responses?
Absolutely, yes. Of course, not everybody is like Matthew. We have people with autism. We have people with cerebral palsy. We have people with rheumatoid arthritis, spina bifida. We serve people who have broken legs, who are coming back, trying to get their strength and balance back. We have people who have bad hips and are needing hip replacements, that the motion of the horse really helps that physical, keeping the, it's easier for them to ride than it is for them to walk, for example, so they get that physical benefit of the motion of the horse. And so, yeah, there's, Matthew is, we call him our poster child because he's been coming for so long, and he's made such huge strides and improvements, but also because he, it seems that gets the most benefit of our program. But it's available to everyone, so everybody could come and feel good by being with the horses and creating that relationship with the horses. So.
Well, that sounds really exciting. It sounds like something that a lot of our audience is probably going to be more interested in.
Yeah.
But right now, we're going to have to take a short break. When we come back, we have a lot of questions that we still want to answer: where you're located, how we can
Okay.
get in touch with you,
Okay.
and some of the ways that people can get involved in supporting what you do.
Okay.
So, don't go away. We're going to be right back on Valley Viewpoint, talking more with Amy, Matthew, and Mary about this really exciting program of horse therapy. Hello and welcome back to Valley Viewpoint. If you are just joining us, my guests today are talking about horse therapy and the impact that it has made on their lives. So, Mary, this has to be a cooperative venture. I have been around a few horses that I don't think are therapeutic. I think they would probably buck me off and I'd need therapy. How are the horses trained to be sensitive in this particular process?
Well, so the horses that we have, we go through a training process usually before they arrive to us. And a lot of, when we're choosing a horse for our program, sometimes people call and say, I have this horse that I think would work well for you. And then we go and check it out and put it through a trial program to see if indeed it would work. So we are looking for horses, not any horse could be a therapeutic riding horse.
Right.
They have to have special abilities like our riders. And so we are looking for horses that are not easily rattled. Like if something, a plastic bag flies through the arena, we don't want them to react to that. Some of our riders are more animated than others, and so we don't want the horses to be worried if they have a rider that's flapping their arms or doing things on their back that a traditional rider wouldn't do. So we're looking for relaxation, calmness in all different situations. They need to be able to stand still for grooming and mounting, and so we're looking more than the specific training. They of course have to be able to accept a saddle and a rider, and but feel calm and maybe not as reactive as some horses. We're not looking for horses that would want to buck or bite or kick. Those types of things are not acceptable in our program, and so it's more looking.
You don't want the rodeo horse for this one.
I don't want the rodeo horses, no. Each of our horses has, their own idiosyncrasies, things that we have to do to be safe, and so that's part of my job as a volunteer trainer, is to train the volunteers, how to be safe around each of our horses, and it works out really well.
Are there certain breeds that you look for, or is that not really an issue? We have a bunch of different breeds of horses. We really like the shorter, stockier horses that could carry an adult and a child, but they're not maybe as tall or as intimidating as some horses. We do have horses, we don't have any really big horses, but we have so no Clydesdales or...
We don't have any draft horses, although I would love to have a draft horse, and because of their demeanor, a lot of times the draft horses, the Clydesdales, they're not easily scared of things, and so they don't usually have big spooks, and they have the mentality of a horse that would be good for therapeutic riding. They may be too tall, but the breed that is really most cherished in therapeutic riding world is the Norwegian Fjord, which is the breed of horse that Matthew rides. His name is Caesar. The one we have currently is named Caesar, and they're shorter, stocky horses. They're built, a lot of them are used for driving, so pulling a cart or wagon, and they're not very tall. And so if you think about having a volunteer supporting a rider on a horse, the largest level of support we provide is 2 sidewalkers doing thigh holds for the rider, and so they grab the front of the saddle, walking beside, and the rider's leg goes under their arm, and so they're literally holding the rider's leg onto the saddle like this. So if you can imagine walking in a lesson for 30 minutes with a really tall horse, your arm would have to be way up here, but for a shorter horse like Caesar, you can have your arm at a more reasonable angle, and it gets, it's much easier for our volunteers. Many of our volunteers are women, and so some of them are on the smaller, shorter side, and so having the smaller, stocky, shorter horses with that demeanor, calm demeanor, that friendly but not worried about things happening around them, not very sensitive. Those are really the ideal horses that we're looking for.
Now, Amy, I saw you nodding in agreement with many of the things that Mary was saying about the stature of the horse and so forth. So I'm wondering, have you gotten involved with Matthew's horses or part of the process that he's gone through?
I have stepped in as a sidewalker volunteer from time to time.
Okay.
And can definitely testify to the fact that a taller horse is more difficult. That being said, on the volunteer aspect of things, I think therapeutic riding is just as therapeutic for the volunteers as it is for the participants.
Okay.
I've talked to, in the 8 years we've been in this program, we have seen a lot of volunteers and talked to a lot of volunteers and seen their reactions, and it's a pretty amazing experience for them too. They get to build a bond with not only each other, the other volunteers there, but also they're paired with a rider. So Matthew will talk about his volunteer and call him his best friend, and can't wait to go see him, and can't wait for that conversation and that interaction with the volunteer. So I think it's a very special experience for everyone involved, for the riders, the volunteers, the leaders. everyone gets a lot of benefit from this program.
That's great. Now, Mary, is that typical? Matthew's been with you for 8 years. Do you ordinarily have people for that span of time? Or there's some maybe that are longer than that?
So Matthew is, I think, the one who's been with us the longest, but it's very common for riders to come back session after session. But not everybody heard about us when Matthew did, and so as people learn about us, they come and they love it and they keep coming back. So when I'm signing up new riders for spring session, for example, I give first priority to the people that rode with us the last session. So,
So there's limited availability.
There's limited availability, and right now we just have one instructor, and we have 24 riding spots, and so we filled 20 of those spots from returning riders, and so we just have a few openings for the spring, and
So for those who are interested,
Yes.
how do they contact you?
So the best way to get a hold of me is either via email. You can reach me, Mary, at bluemountaintherapeuticriding.org, all spelled out, or you can call 509-542-7624. That's the Blue Mountain Therapeutic Riding's phone number.
Why don't you give that to us one more time?
509-542-7624. You can contact us via our Facebook page. We're on Facebook, Blue Mountain Therapeutic Riding. Again, all spelled out. We're also on Instagram, Blue Mountain Therapeutic Riding. And then we also have a website, bluemountaintherapeuticriding.org. There's ways to get a hold of us in all of those places.
Now, how much does it cost?
So that's a good question. What it costs to run the program is about $40 per lesson. But we don't charge the riders $40 a lesson. We charge them $20 per lesson if they can afford it. And so the difference between what it actually costs to care for the horses and provide the service and what we charge the riders, we make up for donations, grant writing, fundraising.
So if there's a viewer today
Yes.
that is saying, boy, I really like what you're doing.
Yes.
And I can see that there are probably families out there that would benefit from this but who cannot afford it.
Exactly.
Then they could be a supporter.
Absolutely. Yes.
And contact you the same way through the same avenues that
Absolutely.
you just mentioned for
Yes.
people that want to benefit from the service.
That's right. Yeah.
So I presume you're a 501c3?
We are. We're
Okay.
a nonprofit 501c3. Yes. Yes.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the routines that you go through. You said there are a lot of different people that you serve, some with physical disabilities
Right.
of various types.
Yes.
So what kind of things do you do with them?
So, like I said, we have our group riding lessons, and so we have 4 horses in the arena at a time. So right now we're getting ready to start our spring session, which starts next Tuesday, April 12th, and in preparation for that, we're training volunteers. And so we have several different levels of training for the volunteers. We have basic training for all of the volunteers. And then we have horse leader training, which is more specialized. And then we have barn buddy training, which is even more specialized. And so we're getting the volunteers trained. And so we're getting all our participants scheduled. And then, so like next Tuesday, the volunteers will show up. They will catch the horses, bring them into our into our tack and grooming, the area where the hitching posts are. They tie up all the horses, they groom them, they saddle them according to the needs of the clients that we have already laid out for them. And then they bring them into the arena, warm them up, and then time for the lesson to start. So the riders are arriving. We have volunteers who bring the helmets out to the riders. The riders arrive and they wash their hands in our hand washing station, which is left over from when we had a pandemic and we needed to do that. But it's still a nice thing to be able to do, is wash your hands before and after your ride. They wash their hands, they get their helmet on, and then they wait for their turn to be called into the arena. So then we have the horses and the volunteers already in the arena because we've warmed up the horses, and I call the riders in one at a time. We get them mounted onto their horse depending on their abilities, depends on what mounting option we use. We have a ramp so we can support people with wheelchairs
So
and walkers.
everything that they need is provided. They don't have
Everything.
to bring anything.
Nope.
You're just ready to go.
Some of them bring their own helmet, but majority of the helmets are provided by us. We fit them ahead of time, put their name on them, so that's their helmet for the session. They get on their horse, and then the riding lesson starts. And I teach them basic riding skills, so how to ask your horse to go and stop and turn. And we do obstacle courses. We take them on
Sounds
trail rides.
fascinating.
Yes.
Thank you so much, all three of you, for joining us today. And thank you for joining us on Valley Viewpoint. If you have an idea or a concept for a future viewpoint, why not contact us? Our number is 509-529-9149. Or you can email us at valleyviewpoint@bmt.tv. For Viewpoint, I'm Dan Solis.